In this episode,
it's late October 79 AD and early afternoon. Around 1 o'clock, Mount Vesuvius violently comes back to life and reawakens 30 kilometres into the sky. Superheated avalanche of gas, ash and rock moving at over 100 kilometres an hour.
Shit!
Pompeii then gets hit by the later surges around 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. And by then, anyone who's still in the city has already survived 12 to 15 hours of pumice fall. And then the surge comes and it's just over in minutes. Right, it's done. You are done.
You've survived the afternoon. Roofs have collapsed around you, but you're still alive.
Yeah.
And your brain interprets that as evidence that your strategy is working. So it says to itself, well, we've made it this far, we'll make it through the rest.
Okay, so picture the scene. It's late October 79 AD and early afternoon. Around 1 o'clock, Mount Vesuvius, which hasn't erupted in possibly nearly 2,000 years, violently comes back to life and reawakens. And then what happens next is one of the most perfectly preserved catastrophes, I think you could call it, which, I'm smiling, but it's not actually, it was awful, in human history. And we've got a timeline, we've got bodies, well, they're actually, I don't know if you know this, voids in the hardened, in the hardened volcanic material that Giuseppe Fiorelli filled with plaster beginning in 1863 to show us exactly how people died. And then, oh yeah, it's really, so that's one of my favourite facts about this whole thing, is that they didn't find actual bodies, they just kept digging stuff out and finding these weird cavities. And then somebody, Giuseppe Fiorelli, decided, well, let's fill them with plaster before we expose them completely and see what we've got. So when you go to the place and you see all the things, they're actually plaster casts. And yeah, and we've got entire towns and cities frozen in time. And what the whole thing shows us is fascinating. And then also, I suppose, deeply uncomfortable.
I mean, you're talking about Pompeii, right?
I am. Pompeii, but also... So I'm so indulged in this one today because I am obsessed. So,
No, because
Pompeii,
you just launched into it.
Yeah, because I could not wait.
Go on.
Okay.
Go on. I've never been to Pompeii. Have you been?
I've been once, and it
I've never
was...
been.
Well, you and I have talked about going, and we must do it because it's utterly amazing. And, well, anyway, it's not just Pompeii, and I think people forget this. There's Herculaneum, which is sort of further down the road a bit.
Right.
And then there's another place whose name I could never pronounce, but several smaller settlements as well, and they were all completely buried. But... another fun fact. There's going to be a lot of fun facts, so soz, but not soz.
I'm waiting for the fun fact.
Okay. But here's what most people will get wrong, is that they think usually people will say that everyone died, like the entire place, that everyone was obliterated. They picture the whole population being wiped out and nobody escaping at all.
That's what the films show you, isn't it?
Yeah, but actually, I mean, if you were going to put a percentage on how many people died, most people would say, well, if not 100%, like 95, right? But actually...
I'd put it way up there, in the high 90s, for sure.
Well, the truth is, or the reality is, that the majority of people survived. And actually, they think around, about 90% of people survived.
No, so, get out of here.
Yeah. So in the finding of bodies, they found roughly 2,000 across all the sites, so all of them. And Pompeii alone probably had a population between around 10 and 20,000 people. So we're talking about a really high survival rate, right? 90%.
So most people got out. I didn't know that. I actually thought most people died. But so, okay, wow.
Yeah. Because the movies tell us but most people did get out, which makes the question even more interesting, doesn't it, though? Because why did some people leave and other people stay, and what was the difference, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've seen Pompeii films and stuff like that, and you know it's and I read about Pompeii, and so I don't have the same fascination with it as you do. There is some fascination there, not necessarily the volcano. I don't particularly care about the volcano. I'll leave that to you. But the decision-making processes behind it.
Yeah,
because I suppose the people who stayed, and now I'm actually quite shocked that there weren't that many of them.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they weren't stupid, and I'm assuming they weren't reckless, and I'm assuming they didn't have some sort of death wish. So it means they probably did what humans do. But before I give you an analysis, I actually need to probably understand a bit more of what happened, rather than relying on my film.
Yeah, your film knowledge.
My film knowledge.
Yeah.
Because I do know the rough outline of it. You know, the volcano exploded and Pompeii was... I didn't realize it was more than one. I thought it was just Pompeii.
Yeah, again, most people do, yeah.
But I don't know the detail of it. So, I mean, what is the actual timeline of it?
Okay, right. Excuse me for a moment while I absolutely geek out on volcanoes, because that is actually the thing.
Okay.
Bloody love a volcano. Okay, so Vesuvius is what's called a stratovolcano, whichever way you want to say it. It's a composite volcano built up over thousands of years from layers of lava, ash and rock, right?
Okay.
And it's part of the Campanian volcanic arc, which is in the sort of Bay of Naples area. Okay. Lots of volcano and things. And it includes the, and I'm going to say it wrong, but 𝗥𝗘𝗤𝗨𝗘𝗥, caldera just to the west. So there is also a theory that the entire area that Pompeii is could potentially be a caldera and all that stuff. But the whole region is volcanically active and always has been. You know, the Bay of Naples. Oh yeah, like massively so. It's Bay of Naples sits on what's called a subduction zone, where the African plate is sliding under the Eurasian plate, and that creates magma chambers beneath the surface. Right? Got it?
Not really, but
okay.
Fine. I'll take your word for all of that.
Thank you. But fact check me if you like. It's fine.
When had it last gone off? Like, you know, before whenever this was. When was this?
Excellent question. Because that is the thing. We don't actually have a recorded eruption in Roman historical memory, which...
But what year did it go off? Like, what are we talking?
Well, the last major eruption that we kind of was known of was the Avellino
Pompeii.
eruption.
I'm talking about Pompeii.
Yeah, around 1995 BC during the Bronze Age. So we're talking about 2,000 years before, 1,800 years, right? And that one was absolutely massive, right? It was called a Plinian eruption. Right. Again, another favourite fact, which also comes from Mount Vesuvius, which is the most explosive type. So just like ginormous annihilation.
Right.
And the term Plinian comes from Pliny the Younger's documentation of the Mount Vesuvius Pompeii 79 AD event, which became the reference point for understanding this category of eruption. And so I'm not going to apologise for it because I freaking love it. The Avellino eruption buried Bronze Age settlements under metres and metres of pumice and pyroclastic material, similar to what happened with Pompeii. But by Roman times, of course, because we're talking 2,000 years, which is similar distance to us and them now, nobody remembered it. Nobody knew.
Oh, of course they wouldn't, would they? So for the people of Pompeii then, if it hasn't erupted in, what did you say, 1,800 years, it's just a mountain, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's been a mountain their entire lives. Actually, there is a volcano in Ireland called the Sugarloaf, which is an inactive volcano, and people just think of it as a mountain, but it isn't.
Right.
It is an actual volcano, and I think it's not dead. It could erupt.
It's not extinct.
No.
The same in Edinburgh, where Arthur's Seat is.
Right.
I believe that's
Exactly.
yes, and then
So,
I believe there's one in Bath as well. But those two are
the
meant to be
idea
extinct.
is that the people living there, to them, this was just a mountain their entire lives.
Yeah.
And the entire lives of their parents and grandparents as well.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
nobody alive, I suppose, at the time would have had any reason to think it's anything other than, a rather nice hill with good soil on it.
Well, exactly. And that's the
volcanic
thing.
stuff is quite fertile, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why people often will live around them. But, this is exactly it. Because it was fertile, it was green, right? There were farms and vineyards on the slopes, and the soil, it's incredibly rich because of those volcanic materials. And really, that, as I said, why people settle near them all the time despite the risk. But the Romans, they didn't think of it as a volcano. They didn't actually really even have the concept of a volcano. The word volcano, just for reference, comes from Vulcan, which is the Roman god of fire. But it wasn't
Or the pointy-eared people in Star Trek, but whatever. Go on. Who actually live on a very volcanic
oh my god!
fiery,
So that's
hot
why they're
planet.
called. Oh my goodness!
That's why they're called Vulcans.
That's hilarious. I'd never put that together. But I'm not a fan.
Give you some Star Trek lore.
If I'm having my obsession, you have to have yours. Is that the thing? It's like competitive obsessions. Okay.
Yeah.
So, so the Vulcan, the Roman god of war. The Roman god of fire, but it wasn't applied to mountains that explode, i.e. volcanoes, until a lot later. And so they might have known that the mountain was somehow connected to fire in the underworld, right? And that there are references to that in literature, but they didn't have a framework for understanding what it was or what it could do. They had no idea at all, no concept of volcano.
Well, I mean, from a purely psychological point of view, that's actually interesting, because if you don't have a category for what you're seeing,
right,
you can't process it properly, can you? Because your brain is trying to file things under, and always tries to file things under something it recognizes. So earthquake, storm, the gods having a tantrum, maybe, and none of those are correct. Right,
and none at all. And so they've got no prior experience, no cultural memory, no scientific memory, no scientific understanding. Bear in mind that lives are going to be so isolated to their area in terms of other people might in other cultures know, but they don't. So all they have is just this mountain that's always been there, and suddenly it's behaving in a way that made absolutely no sense at all.
Okay, so, I mean, what happened? What's the hour by hour, blow by blow? I mean, I imagine that it didn't just suddenly go...
No, exactly, it didn't. And so, so it's early afternoon, as I've said, and it's around 1 o'clock. But there's been seismic activity, as in earthquakes, tremors, in the days and weeks leading up to this, right? So we know...
And people didn't think, oh, that's odd.
Well, no, because they knew about earthquakes, because there had been a really significant one about 17 years earlier in 62 AD. And that had, so they had that concept, and that did not have an eruption afterwards. So earthquakes were just a bit like in California or wherever, earthquakes are just normal, or Japan.
Right, yeah.
But that earthquake in 62 AD damaged buildings across the region. It was massive. And I find this weirdly, poignantly fascinating is that some structures in Pompeii still hadn't been fully repaired by the time the volcano...
Even 60 years later?
No, 69 AD. So what was it, 17?
Oh, it was only
62.
10 years.
It was like 18 years.
7 or 8 years. Yeah, okay, fine.
No, I think it was 62 AD for the big earthquake, I believe.
Okay,
and then,
so only a few years.
Yeah, so recent. But so the ground shaking just wasn't unprecedented. People were used to that. That was an experience, right?
But I mean, that's already a problem, isn't it? Because you've habituated to tremors, right?
Right.
So the ground shakes, nothing terrible happens. The ground shakes again, nothing terrible happens. And so your brain then goes, oh, actually, this is normal.
Right.
This is and to be honest with you, and I hate to bring this back to what you do, but it's the same in toxic or abusive situations. It suddenly
because you just this is normal.
Normalize stuff. Yeah,
this is what happens when that happens, and and so obviously this is completely different because the mountain explodes. Right. The magma chamber beneath Vesuvius had been sealed for nearly 2 millennia. Right. That is
it was like a huge pimple ready with a white head on it.
Right. Everyone's going to go, oh, don't enjoy this. Yeah, I am enjoying it because it's a volcano and...
Right, go on.
Okay. So this pressure is building. And when it finally gave way, the eruption was cataclysmic. Right?
I can't even imagine.
I mean, just... like so big, a column of superheated gas and ash and how do you say the word pumice shoots about 30 kilometers into the sky, right? 30 kilometers. That is nearly 4 times the height of Mount Everest.
I was going to say, I mean, jets fly at 22,000 feet. What's that?
32,000. But I don't know. I can't do those maths. But what I can tell you is it is well above where commercial aircraft fly, right?
Right, is it?
It's hugely high above it.
Can you just imagine?
Right. And it is visible. This column of ash and smoke and whatever is visible for hundreds of kilometres. I mean, hundreds of kilometres. You imagine how high that has to have been, how big that has to have been to be able to see it. And Pliny the Younger, who documented it all, describes it as looking like a pine tree with a thick trunk and spreading branches at the top. And yeah, amazing.
So Pompeii must have started getting buried almost immediately then.
Yeah, absolutely, immediately. You know, Pompeii is only about, 10 kilometres southeast of the crater. And
literally on the doorstep.
It's so close. When we go, you'll see it's just there. It's so close. And because the wind is blowing, or was blowing southeast that day, they get the full force of the ashfall because Herculaneum is closer to Mount Vesuvius. Yeah, I wasn't actually trying to show the direction. Okay.
I'm being pedantic.
You are, but I do love pedantry, so that's fine. It was blowing southeast, and Herculaneum is closer to the to Mount Vesuvius, but only about 5 kilometres away. But it's west of Vesuvius, so initially it spared the worst of the pumice. What is it?
No way.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's a pumice stone, isn't it?
Pumice.
I think.
Yeah,
so.
I think you're right. Pumice. I'm going to say pumice, or I'm trying to remember. You know what my brain's like with words when I can't remember how to pronounce them. So within the first couple of hours, pretty much, Pompeii is being pelted with lapilli. Right, lapilli. That's what those small. I've forgotten already. Pumice fragments are called. You know, anywhere from pebble size to fist size.
Basically, it's like hailstones the size of rocks.
Right,
but they're literal
they are
rocks.
Rocks, but they are light because they are full of gas bubbles, which is why they're so good.
That makes it all okay, Helen.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
It's just a light showering of rocks.
Light showering of rocks. You'll be fine with a brolly. Yeah, but that's what.
And they're boiling hot, I imagine.
Well, they've probably cooled by the time they get down.
Oh, yeah, they're 30 kilometres in the air.
Because they're quite high up before they get down. But yeah, it's not until we get to the pyroclastic flow, which, we start worrying about heat. But they're falling, these rocks, yes, okay, they're light, but they are falling in these enormous quantities. So, yeah, fair.
So how fast are they accumulating? Because I would imagine from a psychology point of view that the speed of how they're falling and how they're accumulating on the ground is going to matter, because if it's gradual, you actually convince yourself that it's manageable.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas if it's like a
Poof.
like a monsoon rain, you're going, oh, I need to get out of here.
Yeah, you see the danger more clearly. Right, it's like the frog in boiling water thing, isn't it?
This is exactly it. Yeah.
Right. Well, to answer the question, by nightfall, probably I think 2 to 3 meters in some areas of ash, which is huge. You think
That's
about
high.
Yeah, think about snow, like snowfall and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So roofs are collapsing under the weight of them. The streets are filling up, and it is relentless because it just doesn't stop. It just keeps coming hour after hour after hour. It just never ends, right?
So can you imagine being in this?
No, it'd just be horrendous.
Can you imagine the terror and I mean, you're watching it get worse hour by hour, and at every single stage, you're making a calculation about whether this is the moment to leave.
Should I or should I not?
Yeah, exactly. And at every single stage, leaving looks probably more dangerous than it did an hour ago. Because you're thinking, am I going to be safer inside, or should I try and escape? But if I try and escape, it's raining,
rocks.
Right. Like, what the fuck?
So it's brain damage, or what do I do? Right?
Yeah.
So
do I just
exactly
hunker down under the kitchen table?
Right. Right. And this is where I think it gets really psychologically interesting, because obviously that's your area. But before we go into that, you need to understand what happens later, because the pumice stone, falling, that isn't what actually kills most people, And
I bet you it's the ash, isn't it? And the heat of the ash. Is it not?
No.
What is it?
Well, I
didn't think this would be fascinating. I thought I'd be bored.
Well, I'm glad. I'm hopefully dispelling that. I mentioned the pyroclastic flow. So that night at around 1 o'clock in the morning, the eruption column completely collapses.
What do you mean?
Okay, the column of gas and ash that's it's been shooting up into the sky. That can't sustain itself anymore because it's too heavy, right? So the pressure from below decreases, and it essentially just falls back down. You have this massive big column of smoke and ash, and when it does, it doesn't just kind of nicely settle and like dissipate. It races down the flanks of the volcano as what's called a pyroclastic surge or flow, which is essentially a superheated avalanche of gas, ash and rock moving at over 100 kilometres an hour.
Shit! It's breaking the speed limit.
It's so fun. This is a 12 on a horse zone. Yeah,
That's wild.
Yeah, they are lethal. Right, because that is what kills everyone that's still there, who's still there. The Herculaneum was hit first because, again, it's closer, and that was at around midnight or 1 a.m. And they're hit by surges that are reaching 400 to 500 degrees Celsius, right?
Bloody hell. So you said that that there was 2,000 bodies. Weren't the bodies just literally incinerated to nothing?
Well, it's about to get a little graphic, so let me explain, if you'd like me to, because, let me finish this bit. There's a series of surges, 6 in total, over the course of the night, right?
Right.
And the first one hits Herculaneum and obliterates it completely, and people die instantly. And here is...
Lucky them.
Well, I mean...
Yes, of course they're dying instantly rather than being boiled alive.
Well, they are boiled alive. It just happens extremely quickly.
They're probably like vaporized or something.
Well, yeah, basically, because the heat is so extreme that it vaporizes soft tissue. It boils brain matter inside skulls.
Yeah, your brain is going to actually because the pressure of the skull is going to awful,
horrific, and then it causes bodies to assume what's called the pugilistic attitude. The muscles contract. And you end up in this kind of boxer's pose. And dare I mention the name?
I mean, I can't even imagine this.
But so Pompeii then gets hit by the later surges around 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. And by then, anyone who's still in the city has already survived 12 to 15 hours of pumice-fall, earthquakes, darkness, terror, and then the surge comes and it's just over in minutes, right? It's done. You are done. It's
I
horrendous.
mean, that's wild.
It's
Because I suppose by that point, every single person who survived had already left, right?
yes, yeah,
And I suppose the decision that separated the living from the dead was probably made realistically in the first few hours.
well, yeah.
Because if you left it any later than that, you're f***ed.
Well, yeah. I mean, some left in the first few hours and some left during the night. We don't really have detailed accounts of who went when, but the archaeological evidence suggests that the majority of the population fled relatively early, before the situation became completely kind of untenable, really.
That's wild, because I don't think a lot of people know that.
No, but they don't, because they all think everyone
I
got
genuinely
obliterated.
believe most people believe that everybody in Pompeii was obliterated, because that's the story that's been told, right? Which means that the people who died had roughly 12 hours, probably more, in which leaving was still physically possible, and they just didn't.
No, they didn't. And it's not as though it was obvious, though. This is the thing, because if you're standing in Pompeii in the first hour of the eruption, you don't know what's coming. You don't know about pyroclastic
Helen,
surges.
there is a
or flows.
30-kilometre f***ing column of
No.
ash.
You don't know that that's what's going to happen. You don't know the column is going to collapse. You've got no idea. You don't even know what a volcanic eruption is.
Helen.
Right?
Hello, angry God, at least.
Now,
Pissed off.
as you are aware, because you gave me the task, I have been reading a very good book that in its first few chapters talks about hindsight and outcome biases. And it sounds like you might be experiencing some of that now.
Okay.
Okay.
Switch psychologist brain back on.
Okay, so don't get caught in the Helen excitement and go back to.
I don't know that I'd call it
eruption.
excitement. I'm more incredulous than excited.
Okay, well that's just it. It is
fine.
just it's so big.
That
you
has been
can't
know
absorb.
off. Behavioural psychologist has
Thank
switched
you.
back on.
Okay,
Please continue.
Right, so they don't know what it is. All they know. All they know is that rocks are falling from the sky and that the ground is shaking and something deeply strange is happening. That's it. That's the entire context.
I
Right?
suppose, and you have to decide on almost no information if they
Right.
really didn't have any reference point for what was happening, right?
Right.
So they didn't know, but they didn't even know what a volcano was.
Right.
So you have to decide whether to abandon everything that you own and walk out into chaos or stay, which in the brain and psychologically, super uncomfortable.
Well, exactly. Right. And that is the decision point. And that's where the psychology comes in, which is why I wanted to talk about it,
So I think here's the thing, that we like to think that if we were in a genuine emergency,
Well,
we'd
you've
act.
just shown it.
Right. But that was not behavioural psychologist Paul. Behavioural psychologist Paul is talking now.
Okay.
And he's much more rational than the other one, who's like, what the f*** are you all doing? Crazy people,
just
get the
run,
fuck
you
out.
weirdos. There's rocks falling from the sky. Get out. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we do like to think that we'd be the person who grabs the family and heads out the door, don't we? But I mean, the thing
absolutely think that. Yeah.
we wouldn't. Most of us anyway. That's the thing.
Yeah, but 90% did. Anyway,
Which is interesting. Which is interesting. And I suppose the reason that most of us wouldn't be like that in a genuine emergency is that our brains aren't built to respond to threats that we've never seen before.
Right. Right.
So if a lion jumps out, you run like hell.
Right.
Because that's the script that your brain has. Your brain is like,
Yes.
lion, going to eat me, run. The mountain doing something that it's never done before, your brain doesn't have a file for that. So it defaults to the thing that has kept you alive every other time, which is to wait and to watch what everybody else is doing and assume that this probably isn't as bad as it looks. You know?
Right.
So you have to think that if 2,000 people out of 10,000 stayed. I mean, that's
20,000,
still 20%. Yeah. That's a lot of people.
Well, 20,000, I think it was, wasn't it, for the population? But
so 10%, yeah.
So if we've got biases around it, which biases are they specifically?
Well, think about what you'd be actually doing in that first hour, right? So you're standing in your house, rocks are hitting the roof, and you look outside, and your neighbour is still in his garden looking up at the sky, at this column, right? And he hasn't run. And, maybe the woman across the street is bringing her washing in because, it's raining rocks.
Ash. I've been at the river all day washing these, and now
exactly,
it's bloody...
And so I suppose nobody is screaming, maybe. Nobody is fleeing, maybe. So I suppose what does the brain conclude? It concludes that this probably isn't the emergency you think it is, because if it were, someone would be acting like it was, and they'd be screaming and all the rest of it. So I suppose you'd be looking at social proof. And social proof is extraordinarily powerful. You take your cues from the group that you're around. And if the group isn't panicking, then you don't panic either. I don't know, though, what kept those 2,000 people there. I think underneath the fact that maybe you didn't see people, because generally speaking, we are herd animals. So if we see people running like hell, we run like hell, regardless. It's like if you see somebody queuing, you queue.
If people are standing, what was that? I learned this in my A-level psychology, that if you just stand up and stand on the corner of a street or pavement and look up in the sky,
other people will start to look up and see what you're looking at. And because of there's also another experiment done with the doctor's surgery. Every time the bell rings, one person stands up, and then another person, and they're actors, right? So 3 of them stand up. But the actors then leave, and one person, so the people then that are standing up every time the bell rings are no longer actors.
Right.
It's just the thing that we do. It's called normalcy bias. So when the bell rings, people stand up. And when somebody asks them, why are we standing up when the bell rings? They go, I don't know. I'm not sure, because it's this whole thing of this is the way we've always done it, right?
Ugh, my least favourite phrase in the whole world.
I suppose the assumption that because things have been fine before when it has rumbled, okay, yes, there's a huge column of screaming ash, but the mountain has been stable your whole life. And yes, the ground shook before, and it erupted however many years ago it was, and the world didn't end, so it's probably the same. It's unpleasant and it's frightening and temporary, but your brain is essentially pattern matching against every previous experience and telling you that this is going to resolve itself, because it already has. I mean, you said it, that there was an earthquake, that buildings collapsed, but everybody lived. There was nothing wrong with it. Maybe they thought they were experiencing the same thing.
Okay. I'm intrigued by that, because there was something there you said about they're watching the column of smoke. Oh, and that was it, the God aspect, because they were big into their gods. I mean, look at Vulcan.
So this was obviously a super pissed off God.
Right, and it's going up to, maybe it's Hades visiting Zeus, or I know it's the wrong country, but you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And yeah, I mean, it could have been rationalized by that, for sure.
Well, they didn't, and they didn't have the language for what was happening.
No.
Did they? Because they couldn't say it's a volcanic eruption or the volcano is erupting, because that concept just didn't exist for them. They just didn't know that.
This is it, because if you can't name something, you actually can't quite think about it clearly, because you're trying to squeeze, or they're trying to squeeze, what they're seeing into categories that don't actually fit. Earthquake?
Right.
No. Divine punishment? Maybe. The god of the underworld?
Pissed off? Visiting the upper
whoever.
world? What's it called?
Not Zeus, the other one. Zeus was Greek, right?
Yeah, Zeus and Hades are Greek. I don't know. I can never remember.
Whatever.
Jupiter, Mars. All of
anyway,
them,
whatever.
Saturn.
One of them, he was, so he was visiting one of them. Maybe it's some sort of storm that we've never seen before. But the thing is, none of these categories suggest you will be dead in 12 hours.
Right.
Because none of them produce the right kind of response, So the framework you use to interpret a threat determines the action that you're going to take. If you get that interpretation wrong, then you're basically finished before you've started, aren't you?
Yeah. It's almost like they're trying to do behavioural prediction on a volcano.
But they are trying to. That's exactly what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So, which in turn creates a cognitive delay where you're trying to process rather than acting, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I suppose in hindsight, we're going to look and go, oh my God, there's character flaws. They're not character flaws, They didn't have any reference points. These are mechanisms that keep you functioning in normal life. If you panicked every single time something unusual happened, you'd be absolutely useless. You'd be a wreck. You'd be collapsed in a heap in a corner 24/7. So, these things make us adaptive, quite brilliantly so, right up until the moment that they kill you. And the problem is you can't tell the difference in advance. That's the problem.
Oh my God. That is tricky, right? So go on. No, you go. Yeah. Let's look at the psychology bits. Or
so
the deep,
you're telling me it was early afternoon, right, when the eruption started, and the streets are still passable. They're still walkable. You can still walk around Pompeii. So what's stopping these people then?
Well, really? I mean, at this point, leaving is relatively straightforward because the streets are still passable. Visibility is reasonable, and you can move. So, not going to be easy, but it's going to get a lot bloody worse, isn't it? So if you're going to go now, though, this is the time to do it. But psychologically, this is also the point where it's hardest to make that decision, isn't it?
Right,
because
for sure.
The threat just doesn't feel immediate yet, does it?
Yeah. And then that's, I suppose, the cruelty of it, isn't it? The moment when leaving is easiest is actually the moment when leaving feels least necessary.
Yes.
So you're looking at rocks falling and thinking, well, this is rather unpleasant, but is it really worth abandoning my house and my business and everything I've spent my life building? And I mean, the answer from where you're standing is almost certainly no.
No.
Because it doesn't look like a death sentence. It just looks like we're actually having a rather bad day. And the thing is, the longer you wait, the worse it gets in both directions. So leaving becomes physically harder because the streets are filling up. And it becomes psychologically harder because you've now been sitting there for 2 hours telling yourself that you've made the right call. You don't want to discover that you've been wrong for 2 hours. Nobody does.
No, because people don't like being wrong, do they?
No, they don't.
But you're right.
This is actually called the status quo bias. And what's really interesting is you see it all over the place. And one of the most common areas where we see the status quo bias is things like internet providers, car insurance, home insurance, mobile phone providers, these kind of things. We don't move providers because it's too much hassle. That's the status quo bias. So you just keep using the same one over and over and over again because it's easy.
Is that not, would the phrase better the devil you know apply in that situation or no?
Yeah, that's status quo bias.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if it was, I was applying. Okay.
Yeah.
So you just...
Because again, you've got this, it's two decisions which are really difficult. So when we're faced with that, we stick to the one we already know. So it is better the devil you know. We do nothing, right? And doing nothing feels safer than doing something, even when doing nothing is objectively worse, because at least doing nothing is familiar, basically.
Like
so we're going to keep buying Apple phones because we know Apple phones, even when we know, Helen,
you
that
couldn't help
a
yourself,
Samsung phone would have been a better choice to buy. But you know what? Status quo bias. But please, carry on. Helen bought a new phone, by the way, and it was another Apple phone, which I'm deeply disappointed in. But continue, please.
He was trying so hard to convert me. But it does show that you don't actually control me.
Oh, don't tell people that.
Oh,
My
no,
reputation
sorry,
will
so
be
disappointed.
destroyed.
Okay, so not only though with that status quo bias, right? So the big bit of information that they don't have is they don't know a pyroclastic surge is coming. They have no framework for that concept whatsoever.
Oh. You're making your calculation based on what you can see, right? Which is falling rocks, shaking ground, collapsed roofs here and there. Yes, it's ghastly. Absolutely it is. But it's survivable, or at least it looks survivable from inside your house. It's a
bit of ash.
Right?
We'll get it once it stops. We'll clear it up. It'll be okay.
Right. Exactly. You know, and the thing that's actually going to kill you, this surge you're talking about, is hours away and isn't even in the realm of your imagination. The problem is now something quite insidious happens. So you've been sitting there for what, 6 hours, 7 hours, whatever it is, you know, more even. You've survived the afternoon. Roofs have collapsed around you, but you're still alive.
Yeah.
And your brain interprets that as evidence that your strategy is working. So it says to itself, well, we've made it this far. We'll make it through the rest. And it's that idea of, you know, it's not really the sunk cost fallacy, but it's almost like the sunk cost.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
You know,
because you've waited this long, you've got this
You've
far,
waited this long, you've
well
invested this much time in it. It's it would now cost too much to abandon it. And then you've got a little bit of confirmation bias kicked in there as well, because every hour you survive reinforces the belief that staying was the right decision.
Yes.
I'm still alive.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, of course, it's completely irrational, because surviving the last 6 hours tells you absolutely nothing about what's coming next. But it does feel like your decision has been vindicated.
Yeah. We've made it this far, we can make it through the rest kind of idea.
Well, this is precisely it. And that's the voice in your head that actually kills you in these situations.
God, don't listen to that voice.
No, don't.
So, like,
this voice is a lunatic.
I mean, which one of the voices am I meant to listen to? There's so many.
So what are the people doing? What are they doing? Yes, they're terrified, but what the are they doing?
Well, they are just terrified because buildings.
Behavioral psychologist persona dropped there for a moment.
God, tell me it all. I want to know it all. Like, I'm actually really into the story. So some of them are like huddled together, you know, families, parents with their children, of course. It's actually desperately sad. They found bodies grouped together in rooms. There are some actually very, very poignant statues there, you know, but some people were clearly still trying to protect their possessions. Wealthy individuals who died surrounded by like their valuables and their jewelry and coins and all that stuff.
That does not surprise me. That's loss aversion, which is an incredibly powerful driver. In fact, it's one of the most powerful drivers that we have. I was going to say,
is it not the top driver?
Yeah, it's one of the most powerful drivers that we have. Well, the pleasure plane principle is the other one. But the loss aversion is the pain of losing something that you own is psychologically as difficult or as painful and as intense as the pleasure of gaining something equivalent. So the idea of walking away from everything, your house, your status, your wealth. So I'm wondering if the 2,000 people who stayed were all the rich people. It's genuinely agonizing in that moment. It feels like you're losing a part of yourself. And for a wealthy Roman, where status was everything, they're not just things. It's what these things represent. You know, they represent your position, your family's legacy, even your identity. Yeah. If you walk out of Pompeii with nothing,
and a lot of ash,
you arrive somewhere as a nobody. You're a refugee. And for someone who spent their entire life being important, I mean, that's almost unthinkable. Not almost, that is unthinkable.
Yes.
you'd actually rather take your chances with the Screaming God Mountain. That's really obviously that's really obviously pissed off with everybody right now.
Wait, hang on, because I need to we're going to have to put that on merch. Screaming God Mountain with like a volcano coming up over it. Amazing. So yeah, so ego then becomes entangled with survival, right? And then you don't,
sure.
Right, and you don't know that this is a choice. This is the biggest thing, that hindsight, outcome bias. We know they're going to die. They did not. They did
Correct.
not have a clue.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a choice between death and survival, but they don't know that that's the choice.
Don't.
Right?
No.
They think it's a choice between risk and certainty.
But
Fair?
this is exactly it. They're not choosing to die.
No, of course not.
They're choosing not to become someone that they just can't bear to be, which is somebody without possessions and status and
their
money
favourite
and
vase
wealth and all the rest of it. And the thing is, I suppose that, and I suppose the biggest, tragedy of it is that they can't see the choice that they have to make clearly because they don't have the information.
No.
They think they're making a rational assessment, and they're not. They're running on loss aversion and identity threat and sunk cost fallacy reasoning. And none of those biases and heuristics care whether you live or die. You know, and there's of course there's nobody telling them otherwise, I imagine. So there's no authority, there's no emergency services, there's no government announcement. Listen, God Mountain is really f***ed off. Get the f*** out of here. Leave everything. And I think this is something that people don't appreciate about habituation. You know, after 6 hours or 12 hours or whatever of pumice falling, your brain stops treating it as alarming. It's just what's happening now. It has become the background. Yes, you're still frightened. Of course you are. You're still nervous. Absolutely. But the really sharp edge of terror has worn off. And when terror wears off, so does urgency. And,
yes.
You know, I think terror being, urgency being the thing that might drive you to act in the first hour. Well, I mean, it's gone, and it's just a dull anxiety by the 6, 7 or 8 hours. And dull anxiety doesn't make you run. It actually makes you wait. Right.
And again, no idea what's coming, do they? They don't know. Yeah. And because then around midnight, right, the eruption column collapses, and that first pyroclastic surge destroys Herculaneum. But Pompeii doesn't know that that's happening. They've got no idea. There's no social media. They can't watch the news. CNN isn't broadcasting it, right?
No.
Or BBC or whoever. They're in complete darkness. All they know is that the earthquakes are continuing, the pumice stone is still falling, and that they've been awake and terrified for 12 hours, right?
Yeah, and I suppose the people in Herculaneum are already dead, right?
Got one, yeah. Vaporized, as you called it, as you said.
Right. But Pompeii doesn't know this.
No, they've got no idea. He
doesn't know that the village, whatever it is, 5 kilometers away, has just been absolutely vaporized to the ground.
Yeah.
So they're sitting in the dark, waiting for the morning, because, of course, everything in the morning is better, right? Yeah. Because the morning always brings clarity. And this is a whole cultural
got bad news.
thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
This is the whole
Sleep
culture.
on it. You'll think better.
Exactly,
that kind of thing. Yeah,
and it's why we're terrified at night, and we feel calmer when we see the sunrise and all sorts of stuff.
It's only so you can see prey, isn't it? Surely.
Right. It all goes all the way back.
Right.
You know,
it's
so
only
because
there's
in the
light,
dark
so you can't.
You feel vulnerable and stuff like that. And
because you are.
You are, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean you are. So yeah, just probably not in your full bed.
And then. Did you say it was early in the morning? Did you say it was like 7 o'clock in the morning or something?
6ish, I think. Yeah, 6 o'clock.
So this surge starts because it's already destroyed Herculaneum, and it starts reaching Pompeii. And what did you say it was? It was like 600 degrees or something like that.
500. You keep going up every time you say the temperature.
Right,
between 400 and 500 degrees. Celsius.
And it's going at 100 kilometers an hour. I mean, this is fast motherfucker.
Yeah, there is. It's
And
like
then
super
you
speedy.
think that the sunrise is going to save you, and it does the complete opposite. It's completely over.
Yeah. And, which means the people who lived and the people who died were separated by decisions made in the first 6 hours.
Right.
Decisions made under conditions of profound uncertainty with no expertise, no
sure.
guidance, and every psychological mechanism pushing towards staying.
Towards staying,
Right.
yeah. What would it have felt like to be one of these people? Not the mechanisms, or the labels, but the actual human experience of having to make these decisions. But you're not making decisions based on what you know.
No.
You have no reference point for this.
This mountain suddenly explodes out of f***ing nowhere.
Can you
all right,
imagine?
No, because they've had, so people go, yeah, but it's not out of nowhere. They've had earthquakes. They don't know. Those are tied to that. There is no thing for them.
That's
to
just
know
a
that.
mountain.
This just a mountain that grows good grapes for good wine. Right?
Wild. It's actually the worst possible starting point to make good decisions.
Right.
By the way,
Well, what, without any information?
Fear
I think that's a fairly
fear you
obvious
can
thing.
act on, right? Fear you can act on.
Right, but this is the first thing you feel isn't going to be fear necessarily, because it's going to be confusion.
It's going to be confusion, because confusion just makes you stand there.
Right. And so you have
nothing.
and you have no reference point. And when humans encounter something we can't categorize, as you said earlier, we experience that profound disorientation. Your brain is constantly searching frantically. You think about any bad news that you've had, unexpected bad news.
The brain hates gaps.
I mean, like the whole shock news thing is the only thing I could probably compare it to in terms of your brain kind of being so disoriented and trying to grasp onto things to try and make sense. No, that can't be true, but I only saw them yesterday. How could that? What is this? What is happening? And trying to fit what you're seeing into frameworks that you already have, right?
Yeah.
So we're using pre-existing information to make new information. So is this an earthquake, a storm, or is it something divine? Is screaming, what's it?
But this is it,
Mountain god.
The
angry.
gods are angry, which, if you're a Roman in that time frame, is actually perfectly rational. And a perfectly rational interpretation, given what you know. And it leads you to a completely different set of actions than, you know what, there's actually a geological catastrophe and I need to run like hell.
Right.
So,
do you know as well, just to put that like religious aspect into context, in Athens, there was a temple for Athena, and we're talking Aristotle era type time, and people weren't allowed in it because it was her home to stay when she came to visit Athens.
Oh yeah, but they all had this.
Right. So, but that's how seriously they took it, and that the gods were part of, like, where our God is upon
the Romans, the Greeks, and the Sumerians and the Mayans. Although the Mayans were,
Oh, I've been listening. Hummingbird God, or is that that's the Aztecs? Sorry.
I mean, the Aztecs, fascinating. They basically killed everyone and sacrificed them.
But they didn't actually. That's a myth. They did less, but they used to do it as part of intimidation to invaders. But as part of their regular thing, not a regular thing.
There was one, I can't remember his name, but it'll come to me. But,
okay. Yeah, do you want to got it?
No, can't remember.
No? Okay.
Anyway,
so the point
sacrifices
being
almost every day.
It's not true.
It is true.
It's not true. We'll fight about it later. The point being that the God thing, that where in our religions they tend to sit on a fluffy cloud strumming a harp, or angels or whatever they do. In the Roman and Greek religions, it was that they were part of their everyday life. Like they came to stay. You poured a cup of tea for them, right? Yeah. So,
It's the same in Hinduism.
Right. So, as you said, your brain doesn't go, there's a geological catastrophe I need to run. It kind of goes, like, this could be this thing and that could be that thing. And so you might stay because it feels more like the wrong response to a spiritual event, right? Because, like, if you interpret it as a natural disaster, leaving makes sense. But if it's a spiritual event, then you're doing something wrong to the god. And so you have to do prayer and appeasement and all that stuff.
Yeah, but this is it, because if it's divine, you can't control it by leaving. You control it through rituals and through prayer and through, as you said, appeasement. So you might stay because fleeing feels like the wrong response to a spiritual event. You're abandoning your God, basically.
Right.
Whereas if you interpret it as a natural event, then leaving, of course, makes more sense. And you can't know which one you're in. You're guessing.
No.
Your guess determines, right or wrongly, whether you live or die. And you have absolutely no way of knowing whether you're guessing correctly. That's the actual horror of it, isn't it?
Yeah, my God. There's absolutely no way to know. So you're making your best guess based on your worldview. And,
which we all do.
Of course. But also that loss aversion, right?
Well, loss aversion,
Yeah. And for most people, the guess is, this is temporary. Well, actually, it's not most people, actually, is it? Because it's 10%, but we'll come on to that a little bit. Most people would think, I think, this is temporary, this is manageable, we can handle it, unless they've left in those first, couple of hours. Because that is, I think, when the survivors all left, was in those first 1 or 2 hours. It wasn't... I said earlier that it was 6 hours that they had to make that decision. But I actually think they all, as far as I'm aware.
And the thing is, from where they were standing, what they knew, staying was defensible, wasn't it?
For sure.
You have to remember, we're judging them with 2,000 years of hindsight.
I mean, have I not been saying that the entire way through when you were getting mean and judgy about them not looking at it? Thank you very much.
I still think they're stupid. I know the psychology behind it, but I still think they're stupid. I'd be out of there.
Well, there is the thing.
But I genuinely would be out of there. I'd be like,
I mean, I think I would, but simply, well, possibly because I know about this. I would think I'm out.
Yeah, maybe.
Also, I'm not worried about
You're
pissing
relying on
off
a reference of frame, a frame of reference.
And fight, flight, freeze. Mine would be fly as fast as you can. Because they're also in managing intense fear too. So we do have to think about that. Right.
Yeah.
So the body is in a state of high alert and adrenaline is flooding their system, heart's racing. You can't, as we've said, sustain that level of physiological arousal 4 hours on end. So your body just starts to shut it down. And again, you just habituate.
Your prefrontal cortex, which is part of the brain that does the strategic thinking and the planning and the weighing up and stuff, doesn't function properly under sustained stress.
Right.
So, at all. So high levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and noradrenaline.
Norepinephrine. Is it not norepinephrine? Isn't that one?
No.
I've just made it up.
Noradrenaline essentially takes away the thinking part of your brain and takes it offline. Right. Obviously, your brain doesn't shut down, but it has to...
it becomes analog.
It does become analog, but it has to prioritize which parts of the brain to focus on, because it can't... You can't analyze everything basically in a stress situation like that, a sustained stress situation. So it takes the brain offline and it hands over control of the brain. It takes that part of the brain offline and hands over to the more primal systems, this survival mechanism, So the longer the crisis goes on, the actual worse your decisions become.
Right.
Because you're now running on instinct rather than analysis. And instinct always says, stay where you are, stay with what you know, protect what you have, don't move. So,
right, yes, and what you kind of probably think is we need a plan. Should we stay? Should we go? What's the best course of action? and you're having that conversation with your family. So this is not a solo decision. That's the other part of this. It's a really important part as well. You're part of a household and maybe an extended family. So me and you together see a big column of smoke. We'd both be like, should we go? Yeah, let's go. Let's just get out of here.
You'll be like, let's get out of here.
Let's do it. Let's find a boat or something, right? Or a donkey or whatever, a person. Let's go. But if we were with someone who was more cautious, less likely to just like not feel unapologetic about just running, then...
But even if you had children, Helen?
Children, elderly parents, dependents, and everyone's looking to someone else to make that decision, right? So if we're in this big group, if you're the pater familias, that's your role, like the head of the family, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to protect
everyone.
Right?
I can't imagine what that would be like, because you're trying to project confidence, aren't you, for everyone else? Well, I suppose you have absolutely no idea what the to do, and
terrifying, like being on an airplane with small children crashing.
But you see this as well. You see the adult in the room, or the most senior person in the room, or the paterfamilias, or whatever it is you said, trying to perform this confidence so it keeps everybody else calm. And it's that confidence that actually traps you, because once you've told your household or the people around you who are looking to you for guidance and leadership, we're staying, it'll be fine, you actually can't reverse that so easily, because you're going to be admitting that you're wrong. And admitting that you're wrong undermines the authority that everyone's actually depending upon. This is not status authority. This is authority of calming people down, making them feel safe, ensuring that they don't panic, or that their fear levels don't go up, or whatever. So what do? You double down on it.
But you know what? Like, all this hindsight, I keep taking the mick out of you for the hindsight and outcome bias, but regardless, we keep being surprised,
don't
right?
Because diss the science, Helen.
Look, you know full well that I bloody love the science, so don't even accuse me of dissing. I'm dissing you, not the science. Anywho, every time there's a volcanic eruption and people don't evacuate, we act as though it's completely unprecedented.
The thing is about volcanoes, or what it seems to me anyway, I don't have a great deal of knowledge about them, but it appears that they do give you time. So that time to think is actually what kills you. Because you use it to habituate. So the tremors become normal. The ash becomes normal, and the warnings and the trembles and the grumbling noises, this all becomes just background, and you just normalize it. Normalization and habituation are fascinating, because the human brain and human behavior is adaptable to most things. Right. And again, we're herd animals. So everyone else is waiting for everyone else to go. In these situations, there's never any authority that's able to, that has the power to enforce compliance. The things like scientists can warn you, governments can warn you. We can make agreements. We can know about all of the failures, and and meanwhile, there are still millions of people now currently living on the slopes of Vesuvius again, right?
Still are, yeah. I mean, it's huge around them. But they have
which is wild.
There is a saying in Italy that I've forgotten. It's on the... it's like, isn't it? What's here today is here today. It's this kind of like a, what will be, will be. There's a laissez-faire attitude to the idea that this massive volcano still sits there and it rumbles. If you think it was 2,000 years between Pompeii and the previous, and we're looking around the same kind of timeline right now. It's due.
So it's an active volcano with quite a well-documented history of burying cities and people.
And not long ago, some people were up looking around, because you can walk up it and go around the crater.
Right.
And far too much effort, quite honestly. But there were some people up there, and it had a little mini, like a fart, and killed a load of people. Like, they're lethal.
And these people are still not leaving because,
Still not going.
Their whole lives,
right.
and, they've been there their whole lives. They build their family has been there their whole lives. It hasn't erupted since Pompeii, right?
Right.
No,
I don't think so.
I mean, are they, I'm assuming we monitor it now.
Oh, loads of monitoring on all the big ones. There's loads of, they have all these sensors in the ground and stuff to pick up seismic activity. But they're often quite underfunded, these organisations that do these things, because, again, it's like, well, what are you going to do about it? But the thing with Vesuvius and Pompeii is that the people that live there, if you think about how the event that we've been talking about, the eruption then, if they were staying because of identity to a degree, then people now who live there, they live at Pompeii, Paul. So they've got that part of, there's a huge cultural history. It's Roman, and there's this huge ruin that they found, which, by the way, people forgot that Pompeii even existed. And it wasn't like it was just an accidental find.
Hundreds and hundreds of years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until I think the 1800s. Completely forgot it existed. My other favourite part of the whole Vesuvius Pompeii thing is Pliny the Elder. The column goes up, and he looks at it and he goes, oh, I think I'll have a nap. And so he goes and sleeps. And somebody else goes, do you not think maybe you should get in the boat and go to sort of rescue some people off the shore? Because Pompeii's on the water, and by Sorrento and all that. And I'll go later, And so he delays and delays and delays going, and eventually goes, it's looking a bit gnarly, actually. I might actually just pop over and see if we can pick a few people up. But he gets there, goes to the house of a friend who's a wealthy friend, and then, we might as well just stay here for the night. But basically, they got trapped, and then he was taken out by the pyroclastic flow. But his nephew, Pliny the Younger, was there watching the entire thing, and he is the one that documented, and the only reason we know about it is because of his record keeping, hence the Plinian column being named after him, because it was because of his documentation.
Isn't that wild? So if he didn't document it, we wouldn't know about it.
We would have no idea. We would probably have found Pompeii, but we wouldn't know exactly how it played out.
Surely all of those people who survived would have talked about it.
Well, they died 2,000 years ago. And also Pliny, don't forget, in Roman times, you weren't educated. There was no free education. Caesar was very lucky because he was educated, because only the wealthy got an education. And so Pliny the Younger, the nephew of Pliny the Elder, was, I believe, Pliny the Elder's favourite nephew, and therefore inherited all this, that and the other. He didn't have his own children, I don't think. And he was therefore educated. But anybody else that survived it, if all the wealthy have died because they've stayed to keep their identity, then there's not going to be anyone writing a letter saying, "Dear John, yesterday there was a big column of smoke coming out of the mountain. Who knew? I think the gods are visiting the other gods from, blah." They probably wouldn't have it. And the other bit was that he was so far away, he was watching it, but he was in no danger from it. He was in no threat from it. So he was in the Bay of Naples somewhere, I think. Don't quite know where. But yeah. Fascinating.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you allowing me...
That's enough volcanoes. That's enough volcanoes.
I'm going to have to watch something on it now. But yeah, thank you.
So maybe next time we're going to do something sci-fi related.
Okay, do the psychology of Star Trek. Why we believe the things that we see. And yeah. Okay.
We believe them because it's the best version of ourselves.
What, on Star Trek?
That's why. Yeah. The best version of humanity.
Oh. Yeah, but they're baddies. Some of them. There are baddies. Excuse me.
There's baddies everywhere, but the Federation is the best version of humanity and people. No wars, no money.
It sounds really boring.
Everybody has a purpose.
I don't want war, but I like money.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway.
All right.
If you enjoyed this,
geek out.
Yeah, move away from our normal content. Like and subscribe and leave a comment and tell Helen you love her for doing something so completely out of character for the channel.
And tell Paul that you love him for letting me and indulging it, because my God, this is like one of my favourite things in the world. So I appreciate it.
We can tell. All right. See you in the next one. Bye.
See you. Bye.